Thousands of conspiracy theories exist, many of which have no factual evidence to support them. Over the years, however, some of these theories have been backed up by solid evidence. From a plot to assassinate Hitler to CIA mind control experiments, join us as we count 10 shocking conspiracy theories that came true. Number 10. The Mafia. This secret crime society was virtually unknown until the 1960s when member Joe Valachi first revealed the society's secrets to law enforcement officials. What was known was that organized crime existed, but not that the extent of their control included working with the CIA, politicians, and the biggest businesses in the world. Number 9. US government spying on citizens. This used to be laughed at as a dystopian fantasy derived from overactive imagination, Orwell's 1984, and the juvenile distrust of the government. When you claimed they were spying on you, people labeled you a paranoid conspiracy theorist. Even after it was revealed that the NSA had been illegally eavesdropping on us and collecting our mobile phone metadata for over a decade, people hedged on the meaning of it. Yes, they are analysing our transmissions, but it's under the best interest of national security. In a post-9/11 world, certain liberties must be sacrificed for the sake of security, right? Well, it turns out that this is untrue. Not only is there no evidence that the NSA has protected us from terrorism, there is a growing evidence that it makes us more vulnerable. Thanks to revelations about the NSA and their prison project, we know that the scope of the NSA's eavesdropping is even beyond what many conspiracy theorists originally believed. In early June of 2014, the Washington Post reported that almost 90% of the data being collected by NSA surveillance programs is from the internet users with no connection to terrorist activities. According to the American Civil Liberties Union, this is in clear violation of the Constitution. The ACLU is pursuing a lawsuit against the NSA, claiming that the Dragnet-style mass collection of data violates the Fourth Amendment right of privacy, as well as the First Amendment rights of free speech and association. Number 8. Manhattan Project. The Manhattan Project was the codename for a project conducted during World War II to develop the first atomic bomb. The project was led by the United States and included participation from the United Kingdom and Canada. Formerly designated as the Manhattan Engineer District, it refers specifically to the period of the project from 1942 to 1946 under the control of the US Army Corps of Engineers under the administration of General Leslie R. Groves. The scientific research was directed by American physicist J. Robert Oppenheimer. The project's roots lay in scientists' fear since the 1930s that Nazi Germany was also investigating nuclear weapons of its own. Born out of a small research program in 1939, the Manhattan Project eventually employed more than 130,000 people and cost nearly $2 billion, which would be $22 billion in current value. It resulted in the creation of multiple production and research sites that operated in secret. With the total involved, this makes it one of the largest conspiracies in history. Entire towns were built for short periods of time, employing people, all under top national secrecy. The government never admitted to it, the media never reported on it, and people had no idea for over 25 years. Project research took place at over 30 sites across the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom. The three primary research and production sites of the project were the plutonium production facility at what is now Hanford site, the uranium enrichment facilities at Oak Ridge, Tennessee, and the weapons research and design laboratory now known as Los Alamos National Laboratory. Number 7. Conspiracy to assassinate Hitler. Among another 20-some-odd attempts, this was one of the largest conspiracies involving hundreds of loyalists in the highest echelons of Hitler's inner circle. Near the end of World War II, things were rapidly going south for Germany, and the time seemed ripe for guilt-ridden Nazi officers to assassinate Hitler and overthrow his government. Colonel Hennig von Treschow recruited Colonel Klaus von Stauffenberg to join the conspiracy in 1944. The plot to take out Hitler and then all of his loyal officers was called Operation Valkyrie. The plan was to use the continuity of government proceedings during an assassination on Hitler's life to take over full control of the government in Germany. The assassination would be blamed on the Nazi SS and therefore allowing Stauffenberg to take full control of all aspects of the government. It almost worked. In July 1944, Stauffenberg was promoted so that he could now start attending military strategy meetings with Hitler himself. On more than one occasion, Stauffenberg planned to kill Hitler at such a meeting with a briefcase bomb, but he always held off because he also wanted to take out Hitler's two right-hand men, Hermann Göring and Heinrich Himmler. On July 20, he went for it anyway and exploded a bomb inside Hitler's conference room with a remote detonator. Hitler survived only minor injuries. Number 6. The Gulf of Tonkin incident. The original incident, also sometimes referred to as the USS Maddox incident, involved the destroyer USS Maddox supposedly engaging 3 North Vietnamese Navy torpedo boats as part of an intelligence patrol. The Maddox fired almost 300 shells. President Lyndon B. Johnson promptly drafted the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, which became his administration's legal justification for military involvement in Vietnam. Problem is, the event never happened. In 2005, a declassified Internal National Security Agency study revealed that there was no North Vietnamese naval vessels present during the incident. So, what was the Maddox firing at? In 1965, President Johnson commented, "For all I know, our Navy was shooting at whales out there." Worth pointing out, the NSA's own historian Robert J. Hanyok wrote a report stating that the agency had deliberately distorted intelligence reports in 1964. He concluded, "The parallels between the faulty intelligence on Tonkin Gulf and the manipulated intelligence used to justify the Iraq War make it all the more worthwhile to re-examine the events of August 1964. Number 5. Project MKUltra. The CIA ran secret mind control experiments on US citizens from the 1950s until 1973. It's so true that in 1995 President Clinton actually issued a formal apology on behalf of the US government. Essentially, the CIA used drugs, electronics, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, verbal and sexual abuse, and torture to conduct experimental behavioral engineering experiments on subjects. The program subcontracted hundreds of these projects to over 80 different institutions, including universities, hospitals, prisons, and pharmaceutical companies. Most of this was uncovered in 1977, when a Freedom of Information Act exposed 20,000 previously classified documents and triggered a series of Senate hearings. Because CIA Director Richard Helms had most of the more damning MKUltra files destroyed in 1973, much of what actually occurred during these experiments is still unknown, and of course, not a single person was brought to justice. Number 4. CIA drug trafficking in Los Angeles. During the 1980s, the CIA facilitated the sale of cocaine to the Crips and Bloods street gangs of Los Angeles, and funneled millions in drug profits to a Latin American guerrilla army. It's convoluted and complex, but it's true. Gary Webb's book Dark Alliance, the CIA, the Contras and the crack cocaine explosion outlines how CIA-backed Contras smuggled cocaine into the US and then distributed crack to Los Angeles gangs, pocketing the profits. The CIA directly aided the drug dealers to raise money for the Contras. This drug network, Webb wrote in a 1966 San Jose Mercury News article, opened the first pipeline between Colombia's cocaine cartels and the black neighborhoods of Los Angeles, a city now known as the crack capital of the world. The cocaine that flooded in helped spark a crack explosion in urban America and provided the cash and connections needed for LA's gangs to buy automatic weapons. Worth pointing out, on December 10, 2004, Webb committed suicide under suspicious circumstances, namely the fact that he'd used 2 bullets to shoot himself in the head. Number 3. Operation Snow White. Operation Snow White is the name given to an unprecedented infiltration of the US government by the Church of Scientology during the 1970s. They stole classified government files regarding Scientology from dozens of government agencies. In 1977, the FBI finally cracked Snow White open, which led to the arrest and imprisonment of a senior church official. The core mission of the program was to expose and legally expunge all false and secret files of the nations of operating areas, and to enable church seniors and L. Ron Hubbard himself to frequent all Western nations without fret. By the end, of course, there was nothing legal about their endeavors. Number 2. Asbestos. Between 1930 and 1960, manufacturers did all they could to prevent the link between asbestos and respiratory diseases, including cancer, becoming known, so they could avoid prosecution. American workers had in fact sued the Johns Manville Company as far back as 1932. But it wasn't until 1962 that epidemiologists finally established beyond any doubt what company bosses had known for a long time: asbestos causes cancer. Number 1. CIA Assassinations. The Church Committee is the common term referring to the United States Senate Select Committee to study governmental operations with respect to intelligence activities, a US Senate committee chaired by Senator Frank Church in 1975. A precursor to the US Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, the committee investigated intelligence gathering for illegality by the CEI and FBI after certain activities had been revealed by the Watergate affair. The committee uncovered, among many other things, that the CIA had violated its charter to perform only gathering of intelligence. For example, the assassinations of Allende in Chile and Mossadegh in Iran, assassinations against Central and South American leaders and revolutionaries, as well as Africa, Middle East and East Asia. The list was tremendous. They even declassified a heart attack gun the agency had made for the use of killing someone without it being detected. Cancer, car accidents, skiing accidents, suicide, boating accidents, heart attacks, and just plain being shot were common assassination methods. The hearings, although recorded in full congressional record, the mainstream media and official policies is still largely not taught in American schools on recent history. The American public still has no idea this was ever actually confirmed, or even took place. It is common for people to still refer to any of these assassinations as a joke, or made-up conspiracy. Just as a little bonus for you guys, watch this video about a former CIA secretary and the congressional testimony on this secret heart attack gun I talked about.
Its effectiveness. Also, I had to find, one time they wanted me to find out if there was such a thing as a poison that was undetectable, especially one that seemed to mimic a heart attack, that would kill someone, but it would appear that they had a heart attack. I did find such a thing.
Does this pistol fire the dart?
Yes, it does, Mr. Chairman, and a special one was developed which potentially would be able to enter the target without perception.
The poison was frozen into some sort of dart, and then it was shot at very high speed into the person, so when it reached the person it would melt inside them, and the only thing would be like one little tiny red dot on their body, which was hard to detect. There wouldn't be a needle left or anything like that in the person.
But also the toxin itself would not appear in the autopsy?
Yes, so that there was no way of perceiving that the target was hit.
I think the first time that I